For those who do not have a great deal of geopolitical knowledge, and even for those who do, Iran, the IRGC, is striking in other parts of the Middle East. As we have been made aware, Fox News is reporting on it, Al Jazeera, everybody's reporting on this, and people are losing their ever-loving freaking minds. Of course, the Democrats are using this to campaign because they have nothing to go on. They're useless, and they have stolen from us. They flooded our borders. They flooded our country with 50 million illegals the last 4 years. They bankrupted the country. They've run people out of neighborhoods, and they coddled illegal aliens and made them their preferred citizens, and even though they're not citizens, so they have to run on this. That's what they're doing. Every Democrat that you see, and Rhino, who is using this as a way to try to throw shade on Trump, ignore them. They don't matter. Now, getting to the problem, Iran is pissy. The U.S. forces, along at allied forces with Israel and some other countries, took out a bully. Okay? Iran has been a bully to their own people and to other countries. They tried to pull an assassination attempt on the president. Okay, he has talked about it. When you have a bully like that, imagine yourself being a kid going to school, and you got this fat bully and his 3 friends that constantly come at you, steal your lunch money or steal your lunch if your mom made you lunch that morning, and they take your food. So all you had is breakfast, and then you got to sit there from 12 o'clock because you're not eating your lunch because the bully stole your food, and you got to sit there for the next 3 hours and starve, and your stomach is grumbling. You're miserable in school, and you got 9 or 8 months of school left. Are you going to sit there for the rest of the year and let this fool and his friends continue to bully you and threaten you? Are you going to just sit there and take it because you don't want your dad to call you names, and you don't want your mom to go to the school and cut up? So you just don't say nothing. You're just going to sit there and suffer? No, you're not. You are going to handle business because you have no choice in the matter. You have no choice. If you do not defend yourself, that bully is going to make your life a living hell for your entire school career. That is where we're at. Okay, the IRGC, the Iranian Guard, they have been screaming for years, la 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 la, with debt to Israel, debt to America. What the fuck are we supposed to do? Continue to let them do that? They're trying to take my president out. The fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You notice they didn't try to take Biden's half-dead walking ass out, right? You notice they didn't try to do nothing to Obama's slim slacks, right? Only Trump. Why is that? Oh, could it be because Obama gave them like billions of freaking dollars in the dead of night on planes, big military planes? Is that why? And continue to give them money through Congress and signing all these bills into law? Could that be? Is that why they kind of like slim slacks? And oh yeah, he's a Muslim just like them, so whatever. Let me tell you something. President Trump and the efforts of the State Department and the United States military freed the people of Iran. The women across the planet are celebrating. You got white liberal, stupid people screeching and holding up pre-made signs that they get, but with their NGO money. And they have no idea what is going on. Women who have been subjugated, women who have been oppressed, truly oppressed for over 47 years under these mullahs and the Ayatollah, they are free and they want to be free. Have you seen the women doing the dance where they look like they're at a metal concert and their head is spinning around? That is an ancient dance. It is very sacred. It is very beautiful. Okay, these women are doing that dance in the streets of Tehran, and you're screeching. So Iran is pissed, and they are attacking these other countries along the Gold Coast in the Middle East because they signed on to the Abraham Accords, and now, most recently, to the Board of Peace. And some of these countries, like Qatar, are on the Board of Peace and providing security. Okay, so of course, the few Iranians who are left, they're pissy about the whole fucking thing. They had a chance. President Trump gave them a chance to participate in on the Board of Peace. He gave them a chance when he did the Abraham Accords. Now, death to Israel, death to America. Okay, you know what? Have you seen these beautiful countries? Have you seen these countries who are not oppressive to their own people? Have you seen Oman? Have you seen Dubai and Abu Dhabi? Have you seen the Burj Khalifa? These places are very wealthy and the people live like royalty. Even the poor people have money. The freaking police drive Lamborghinis. Bro, y'all better want to get about this money and stop with this 3,000 freaking year old grievance nobody gives a shite about. Iran wants to keep up this 7th century bullshit with killing people and subjugating women and not allowing them to read or wear their hair down or anything. And instead of getting at this money and making Iran a prosperous country like it used to be before the mullahs took it over in the early 70s. What the fuck is your problem if you're pissed off about this? The Iranian people are free. President Trump has urged them to take back their country. And you're over here in comfort in your lily white neighborhoods in protection and peace, and you're throwing shade on the whole thing. Damn. How dumb can you be? Anyway, American citizens have been told to evacuate 14 countries because Iran is pissy and they're throwing all the rest of their little missiles across the Middle East and what's called the Gold Coast and the Gulf nations because they're pissed that they're aligning with Israel to make the Middle East great again. Because, the mullahs can't have that shit. They got to keep the women subjugated and everybody oppressed. That's what's going on.
And they want to control everything, sort of like China. Here's a little Katie Hopkins.
Breaking news here in Batshit Bonkers Britain, where, as you can tell, spring has finally decided to get sprung. First up, Pete Hegseth, the guy who heads up the Department for War over in America and sweats testosterone by the bucket load, has said that Keir Starmer is a hand-wringing, pearl-clutching coward, and he is absolutely right. Queer Keir is too busy on his knees noshing off the Muslim massive to stand shoulder to shoulder with our closest and most special ally. We apologise for this horrid little man that we have in charge, and I say to Pete Hegseth, Secretary of the Department for War, if you'd like me to come over and apologise in person, I'm more than willing to. In other news, our politicians award themselves a 5% pay rise, bringing their salaries up above the 95,000 mark.
Colin, by the time they get there, it's going to be all over. If he just sending them now, I don't know, just to help destroy the drones, huh? By the time they get there, it'll be all over.
But of course, missing the £100,000 tax trap. On top of that, they get their expenses. We pay their fuel bills. They have additional.
But he's emotionally there, right, Colin?
Income as well. It does make you wonder.
Has Starmer been able to cover up the whole Epstein stuff and all that? Is he going to get away with that crap?
How they think that's okay when so many British families are struggling right now. One thing's for certain, only one man gives his salary to local causes and charities, and that's Rupert Lowe. Great Yarmouth is very lucky to have him. And finally, Leeds fans, when there was a break in the football for the Ramadama Ding Dong Massive to have a snicky snack to break their fast, they called out. And I stand with those fans. You've paid £100 or so to go and watch a game of football, not to watch people sort out their personal admin. We learned in the army that eating, feeding, taking a piss, all the rest of it, sleeping, that personal admin. You need to get that shit squared.
Well, he doesn't want to get any of them hurt, so he wanted to wait and to make sure it was going to be okay to send them, maybe.
Away before you go and do your job. So if you're doing Ramadan ding dong and you need
He didn't want to scratch on any of the ships, I guess.
to have a little snicky snack or liquor date, do it on your own time, not when you're supposed to be playing football. As I've said for 20 years, and I'm delighted to have so many people waking up to this fact, we spend far
Colin, have you ever met her? I know she does events all over Britain.
too long in this country tiptoeing around the cultures that chose,
although I guess they tried to jail her a couple times,
to join us, and far too little time standing up for the culture that others have chosen to join. That's it, my darling. See you the other side of the pond, Pete. Batshit bonkers Britain.
Now, we've got Germany sending some weapons to the Islamic people in Africa.
Welcome to Germanistan 2026. Dear government, you just got caught, because it's no longer a conspiracy that Germany is essentially run by an Islamist agenda. Not only do we have Islamists in the country regularly committing terrorist attacks, no, Germany just got exposed for sending weapons to Islamists in the Middle East, facilitating more civil wars and therefore enabling more refugee routes where Islamists can easily infiltrate these paths to send more of their own towards Europe. We have evidence that the German government is currently actively collaborating with Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, and secretly equipping Islamist militias in Sudan with weapons. This is where our taxes are going. And meanwhile, the German legacy media and the government are telling us that the United States, out of all countries, are no longer our ally.
Was mich bei der Szene, die Sie am Anfang gezeigt haben, wirklich überrascht hat, war die Brutalität und die Schärfe. Und das zeigt letztlich, dass die USA kein Verbündeter mehr sind.
And I bet she was arrested for something she said against Islam, most likely. Either that or the COVID shot. She made some funny ones about the shot. But, I'm getting more shots, more shots. She was doing a whole funny thing on that. It was good.
Dass sie sich immer mehr von den demokratischen Werten, die die transatlantische Beziehung mal ausgemacht haben, entfernen, dass sie immer autokratischer werden, dass wir offensichtlich andere Ziele verfolgen, was Trump möchte.
I want to remind you right now how Chancellor Friedrich Merz was so grateful that Israel was doing the, quote, dirty work for us in the West.
Das ist die Drecksarbeit, die Israel macht. Für uns alle.
Meanwhile, our taxes are literally funding the opposition, radical Islamists blowing up civilians. This is going to
I try to tag you and it never works.
Become a massive legal problem for our Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Well, if he is held accountable. The European Union have maintained a ban on delivering weapons to Sudan since 1994, and there's also an arms embargo from the United Nations on Sudan, which has been renewed multiple times since 2004. Germany has ignored these violations of export laws via third parties, and no, it cannot be argued that it was negligence, which would be bad enough, or they simply did not personally deliver the weapons to Sudan, which means it's fine. No, it's not, because there are actually very strict laws with controls prohibiting the re-export of weapons. And why are we delivering weapons to Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Iran in the first place? And how did this happen multiple times? What's quite shocking,
especially weapons to Iran, the worst one. Turkey's right behind them, though.
To me, on top of that, is that in Germany, and let's be honest, all over the West, most people are not very familiar with what's actually going on with the war in Sudan. I have made multiple videos about this, and I think it's important for you to be informed, because I do understand that we got to put our own countries first. So why would we care about Sudan? And the truth is that it affects us. And our taxes are paying for what's going on there. And if this goes downhill and it all ends badly, then we will be the recipients of refugees once again. This is the result of globalism. However, the one media narrative that I have noticed being pushed in the West is that the UAE are supporting the Rapid Support Forces, with no evidence, by the way. The media demonize the Rapid Support Forces. Why? Probably because they oppose the Sudanese army, who are linked to these terrorist militias. So the media are conveniently distracting from the fact that the West is funding terrorist militias in Sudan by demonizing the UAE for doing something that they're not actually doing. You know what? Now that we're investigating the...
Well then, Colin, I'm surprised they haven't shut down GB News there. What's that, just Great Britain News? And isn't that the... which party is that runs that? I'll think of it in a minute.
Facts, it almost looks like there is indeed an Islamist conspiracy taking place in the German government. Because why would they strategically and secretly fund and send weapons to Islamists in the Middle East, if not for the sole purpose of destroying the Christian values of the West? In public, they are all about
They wanted to jail her too. She came over to the United States for a while because they were going to put her in jail in Germany for her speaking out. She's too much against Islam.
Human rights. But it seems like the truth is that they are just a bunch of hypocritical human wrongs.
Yeah, it's up about $30 on the market. That's probably going to be about a 1 month thing, Pat. Wait about a month. It's going to come down. Don't worry. Actually, when it comes down, it'll probably be even lower once the uranium oil gets all on the market regularly.
Welcome to Get Money Stuff.
I just played that. Sorry. It is. All right.
Illinois has its very own Zohran Mamdani, and her name is Kat Abighazaleh. She is a plant, just like he is, except she's tied to tremendous amounts of generational wealth on both sides of her family. And when I say generational wealth, I mean on her maternal side, we have oil money. Like her mother grew up in Preston Hollow. Preston Hollow. Take a moment to go look up the average home cost in Preston Hollow. Go and see people who live in Preston Hollow now, and that will give you some context. Her father, Aladdin Abighazaleh, literally sold a company called Lamp LLC and is rumored to have sold for $50 million. He's currently the CEO of a company that has an estimated value of, I think it was like $181 million. Nothing about this girl.
I think they would shut it down because they're trying to shut down Twitter there, Colin. I think they would shut it down, except for Twitter's still open and people are still seeing information. If they can control the information, they can control people's minds.
Girl who dates the owner of The Onion is organic. Nothing about her is like you. If you're an average voter in District 9 in Illinois, you and Kat Abighazaleh have nothing in common. And I do mean nothing. She is from oil money. And then her father somehow managed to become...
Tammy, you mean the first picture I have on the icon for this thing? Yeah, Ayatollahs.
The leader of a hedge fund of hedge funds and has been...
I guess they're on their fifth Ayatollah. The second, or the oldest son became, he was the fourth one in line, and he became ruler for a day, and now they're down to the second oldest son. So he's got 4 sons. He's got 3 more to go down.
Flipping CEO positions of multi-million dollar companies for years.
John.
You and her are not the same. Let's get into it. So the thing I found really interesting, I had to do some deep digging to kind of really unfold this whole little situation, because a lot of the people in her family go by different names and different spellings. I had a landlord who would play around with the spelling of their last name, and they were also Palestinian. So I was a little bit hip to that already, and it made it a lot easier for me to go and dig and find who all these people are. So I found her brother, Salem Abighazaleh, but he has a very low profile. Her mother, Susan Abighazaleh, who is a descendant of the Goldsmiths, who are literally a
all these socialists are rich,
multi-generational wealthy family in Texas. So that's her maternal side. And then her father is obviously Aladdin Abighazaleh. So the thing that really nauseated me once I found the mom, Susan, she is on X and she goes under a different name, not actually Susan Abighazaleh. So the name says Susie Abighazaleh, and then the handle says...
Actually, in a way, since they've taken out everything in the air pretty much, I hope it kind of keeps going for a little while so they get rid of all the extremists that'll teach other ones, because every day they're knocking off probably 500 to 1,000 of these nutcakes that are true believers in this cult.
Something else. But she loves to comment on all of Kat's posts. So that's how I was able to find her. But what's funny is that Susan goes to great lengths to make it seem like her daughter is a middle-class American. And that Susan is a middle-class American. Susan Goldsmith is the farthest thing from a middle-class American.
I'll show you.
I literally found thread after thread and reply after reply from her to people. People were asking like, hey, what's a place I should go visit? I mean, this...
Here you go, Tammy. I'll show you this way. Let me see if I can... come on, enlarge. There we go. I think I can enlarge it here a little bit. There you go. Can you see that, Tammy? Let me know. Oh, shoot. I'm not in there. That's for later.
Lady is spouting Malta. You should go to Valais. It's like all these places that I haven't even heard of. Like, she has traveled pretty much everywhere in the world. This is the most well-traveled woman I mean, kudos to her for that. I mean, but if I was also 9th generation or 7th generation wealth in Texas, oil money, then I would probably be traveling the globe as well, in addition to having married an extremely filthy rich Palestinian man. I mean, I would also be traveling. But what's funny is that and I saw when I saw that Kat's Wikipedia went out of its way to mention that she has not been reliant on her family since the age of 20, that's when I knew she was freaking loaded. That was how I knew she was loaded, because rich kids will go out of their way to make it seem like they are independent. I mean, there's so many tweets of Kat's all over her X page where she's complaining about how small her New York apartment was. And her mom is like, oh, honey, but it's a gorgeous square. It's a gorgeous box. She's like, I'm in a box apartment. Her mom is like, it's a gorgeous box. Cosplaying this little I'm not a rich kid experience. Let me show you the houses that they're associated with.
But they make good socialists.
In Texas. One of them is valued at $3 million. The other one was 1.6. And then now they live in an area called Levada, Colorado, or something of that nature. And the average home price in Levada is $500,000. The average home price in Chicago, to put into context, is $315,000. I just want to make sure you're okay. Okay. So, like I said, little Kat is a rich girl who's about to pay her way into politics. The money that she's getting, that's so small donor, her father's expertise, and this is all allegedly, but her father's expertise is helping hedge funds with basically improving the audit processes and basically like verifying or validating funds or something of that nature. Like,
I sent it to you a message, Pat.
Nothing about this is organic. She's literally dating the owner of the Onion. So we're going to keep digging, but Kat Abba-Ghazaleh in the 9th district, she's not about to get elected in the 9th district. She's about to buy the 9th district. And you know why she's about to do it? Because she can freaking afford it.
And steal it. They steal votes too. All right, they're trying to get Christianity out of our public schools. Here we go.
Okay, so I did a video on this yesterday. Check it out if you haven't seen it. We have a major problem here. We have several school districts across the United States of America, public and charter, but mostly public, that have started a new practice of sending home halal take-home meals for Muslim students who are fasting during Ramadan. So these students are fasting from sunrise to sunset, and they're getting meals sent home, paid for by the taxpayer, to eat outside of school hours. Somehow, after decades of chasing prayer and Christianity out of
don't worry, we're also paying for that.
The public schools, under supposedly the First Amendment, taxpayers across the country are being asked to subsidize, to pay for a practice that is explicitly Islamic, fasting during Ramadan, as well as any animal-based halal products that are in the meals. Remember, halal meat has to be slaughtered in an Islamic ritual with the animals facing Mecca and Islamic prayers being said over them. And this isn't just going on in Dearborn, though it is going on in Dearborn. It's going on in Maine.
Really? That's really nutcake. What if you go out hunting? Do you have to kill them when they're facing Mecca?
In Minnesota, in Georgia, in California, it's all over the place. Yeah, I'm not sure how they're slipping sort of a surreptitious jizya tax on the American people. Remember, the jizya tax is what non-Muslims have to pay in Muslim countries to support Muslims. But I'm also really just not sure how.
Yeah, I guess the second son's gone down now. Bye-bye. You'd think at some point they'd stop saying, hey, I don't want any part of being the Ayatollah.
Public and charter schools, taxpayer-funded schools, are allowed to endorse an explicitly religious practice. Fasting during those specific dates during Ramadan is an
what would happen if you mixed a little pork in their meat, and this meat tastes a little different. They wouldn't even know it,
Explicitly religious Islamic practice. They chase Christian prayer out of schools for far less. But they probably can't keep slipping it by if we make enough noise about it. So let's please do exactly that.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta get back up here to the top. All right. Couple more.
In Iran, you can get arrested for walking a dog, and then they can take your dog away because according to Islam, dogs are najis, which means unclean. In Iran, you will get arrested, not can, will, if you're a female solo singer. It is against the law. In Iran, not that you have to wear hijab, but if your hijab is not to the liking of the regime forces, they can push you forcefully into a van and take you to jail. And then things that happen in those jails, let's just say that They're not ethical. In Iran, you are not allowed to change your religion or choose your religion. If you do so, you will be executed. In Iran, they would line us up as children, force hijab on us, and force us to chant "Death to America." I mean, I wouldn't call that school. I would call that a cult that is trying to brainwash children into a terrorist mindset. In Iran, there are stations with regime forces, and they can stop your car and see if the person next to you is a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or you're married to. If you're not married to them, you can get arrested. In 5 years, imagine that a Big Mac went from $6 to $600. That's exactly what happened in Iran. Well, roughly, I think it's even more than that. And everything I'm telling you is not even the worst thing that's happening in Iran. Every time...
Well, it's much more than that. I think $1 is worth like well over $2 million there.
People request a regime change and they start to protest, the regime shuts off the internet and starts shooting people with military-grade weapons. Children. Regime forces in the past 2 to 3 weeks have killed more than 50,000 people. So yeah, if you have opinions about how Iranians should feel, perhaps you should go to Iran, live with the regime, and maybe raise a child or two. And then we can speak about it.
Okay, more than a terrorist attack, 13 shot. Where was I forget where this was. Terrorist attack.
So we are live here at Riverfront Live. This is right here on Kellogg Avenue, right in front of the UDF gas station, where Cincinnati Police and Fire Department was dispatched for a report of a shooting, multiple victims. As per units on scene and the hospital, they have said that 12 people have been reportedly shot or have been transported to the hospital at this time. I believe there's some people may still be here on scene that suffered either minor injuries or we don't know the extent of injuries at this time.
I hope the numbers don't grow, Marianne. I hope the numbers don't grow. And that. All right, here's a good one.
It horrifies me to read that. And Jake is right.
Colin, this one's for you. You're going to like this one.
Amazing armed forces deserve all the credibility. They deserve good resources. They deserve to have our full support. They deserve to be protected, for crying out loud. We were exposed out there. We knew that there was going to be war in that region, and we have left them undefended. And now France and Greece are having to run to our rescue. Do you know what? I've got a message, not just for
Pat, I got a video coming up that I'm going to play about when the Ayatollahs took over there. I think they said it was 6 years old or 9, even less than 10.
This Prime Minister, but all of you, for the past 20 years, you have been...
You can't even give birth at that age or anything, so how in hell...
self-indulgent, you've been naive, your policy principles have had totally the wrong priorities. It's been about keeping your seats, gaining your seats, pandering to communities who will never vote for you, who do not have our interests at heart. You didn't stop those pro-Palestine marches. You didn't
mass deportation.
Prescribe the Muslim Brotherhood. You didn't prescribe the IRGC.
Hey,
you were weak in support of Israel. You have sabotaged our self-sufficiency when it comes to energy production, concreting those oil wells, banning Marianne,
I don't think I have anything that bad today.
Exploratory drilling in the North Sea. What on earth do you think you're doing? You're domestic terrorists. You're sabotaging this nation. You're compromising food security by attacking the farmers. Well, guess what? When international maritime shipping routes close down, food can no longer reach our island. Everything that this government and, quite frankly, previous governments have been doing for far too long now has been pathetic. It's been weak-willed. It has had its eye off the ball. It has been narcissistic. It's been about looking good in public. And at the same time, you have put Britain in a desperately precarious situation. You've flooded this land.
I don't think she likes Dahmer so much, Colin.
With foreign enemies. You've
just a guess.
Not secured our borders because of a pandering to out of date, not fit for purpose international law and treaties that belong in the dustbin of history, that defend our enemies and straitjacket our ability to defend ourselves. You have bowed down at the altar to every single dangerous, perilous, pathetic and weak woke ideology out there, filling up your shopping cart, showering yourself in faux moral glory. Well, look at where we are now. We're not able to defend our RAF base. We are completely out of the picture, not trusted by our allies. In fact, they're having to rush to our defence. We got the highest energy prices in the world, and guess what? With the cost of gas going up 90%, we're going to be hit hard. Qatar, the one person who was supplying us with liquefied natural gas, well, they're not going to be able to anymore. And are we self-sufficient? Are we resilient? No, because everyone who's been in power just thinks war is a distant thing that won't happen to them. What is more important is rainbow lanyards and pronouns. You're pathetic. Look what you've done to this country, the lot of you, for crying out loud. Right, got that off my chest, didn't I? Let's speak now.
Surprised you could go without breathing that long.
We're going to go to Iran first, because over the last few hours we've had major operations happening by both the Israelis and the Americans, and now Qatar strikes in the Parchin area.
Hey, Heather.
They targeted all the sites of the Revolutionary Guards and also places where the ballistic missiles were being stored. All that wiped out. What a start. What a day.
It's a few days
so
old.
much is happening. Now, the issue of the Israelis. The Israeli Air Force did make an announcement that they have managed to successfully,
did I spell that right?
beautiful hit. They managed to hit the Iran's leadership complex in Tehran. Now, around 100 fighter jets from the Israeli side dropped over 250 bombs. They targeted Iran's presidential building, the the Supreme National Security Council headquarters, a senior meetings compound, and also an institution for training the army of the Islamic Republic. The IDF said that the leadership complex of the terror regime is one of the most secured assets in Iran and spans many streets in the heart of Tehran. This is the most important and central headquarters for the Iranian terror regime. The leadership and security officials of the terror regime convened in the compound frequently, and from there conducted, among other things, situation assessments regarding the Iranian nuclear program and advancement of the plan to destroy the
carrier his gun or something.
State of Israel. The IDF confirmed that
I think we might have to start packing more often.
That whole thing, the complex, has now been flattened. Now, the IRGC continue their insane attacks on the Persian Gulf Arab countries. We're going to quickly go to UAE, as the Fujairah oil field has now been attacked a few hours ago from Iran.
As well,
this is crazy.
Pat.
Because of this, hang on. Because of this, the Emiratis have now also made a statement over the last few
Was there an accident, John, or something? It's a car accident can back up traffic.
minutes that they are also considering joining this war against the Islamic Republic.
Yep. All right, I'm going to play this one here. Let me enlarge it. There we go. This one's pretty good, I thought. It explains it pretty well. Kind of the way I remember it, too.
In 1979, Iran erupted in revolution, and millions celebrated what they thought would be a new era of freedom. But almost overnight, that hope turned into fear for women. Under Ayatollah Khomeini, strict Islamic laws were enforced in public, and punishment became a spectacle. The streets became a place of control, and a generation of Iranian women learned that rebellion could come at a terrifying cost. Before the revolution, women in Iran had legal rights that were rare in the region at the time. They could vote and run for office,
Maybe, John, there's a lot of people shipping out or something to go to the conflict, which shouldn't last that much longer. I want to talk about the Kurds later. But.
Women worked as doctors, lawyers, teachers, and civil servants. Some served in parliament and held senior government roles. The family protection law gave women the right to ask for divorce and limited men's ability to take multiple wives. It also raised the legal age of marriage for girls to 18.
Did that mean they still could do it, just limited the ability to take as many? Like you could only have 3 instead of 4?
These laws were not perfect, but they gave women a sense that their lives and choices mattered under the law. But as Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the first supreme leader of Iran, returned from exile on February 1st, 1979, after more than 14 years abroad, he moved quickly to undo many of those changes. Within months, he lowered the minimum legal marriage age for girls from 18 to just 9 years old. He removed women from judgeships and barred them from holding high political office.
Oh, okay,
the
John.
new system did not see women as equals in public life. The revolution that had promised justice and dignity was already taking power away from half the population. Just days after consolidating control, Khomeini made a decision that would shape daily life for decades. On March 7th, 1979, he announced a new rule about women's appearance. He declared that all women working in government offices must wear the Islamic hijab. He framed uncovered hair as immoral and described it as a form of nakedness. This was not presented as advice or a suggestion. It was a command from the highest authority in the country. The impact was immediate. Government buildings began enforcing the rule right away.
And those commies and the Islamists will work together to take us over, and that's what happened in Iran. Only thing is once the Islam and commies took over, Islam killed the commies, most of them.
Women who showed up to work without a head covering were told to leave. For many Iranians, this announcement came as a shock. Until that moment, Khomeini had not openly stated that hijab would be compulsory. Many women believed religious dress would remain a personal choice. Overnight, that belief was gone. The next day, March 8, 1979, thousands of women took to the streets of Tehran and Qom. The timing mattered.
Yeah, remember, they took over in 79.
It was International Women's Day, and the protest became a direct response to the hijab decree. Women from different backgrounds joined in. Some were students, others were professionals, and many were mothers. Some were religious, others secular. What united them was the belief that the revolution...
Marianne, and also they ended up, wouldn't let them do certain jobs and stuff like that, little by little, and they couldn't own property. They took away their right to vote, too.
Revolution was being taken away from them.
Not that the votes were, in elections over there, you cannot win because they kill their opponents.
They marched openly, without hijab, knowing exactly what they were defying. They carried banners and shouted slogans. This was not a small or quiet protest. Supporters of Khomeini quickly moved to confront the demonstrators. Pro-Khomeini militiamen and Revolutionary Guards surrounded the crowds. They shouted threats and tried to intimidate the women into leaving. At several points, they fired warning shots into the air to scare people away. Despite this, the protests did not stop. The women returned again and again, holding their ground for 6 straight days, from March 8th to March 14th, 1979. This became the first major public protest against the new Islamic Republic. The scale of the resistance caught the authorities off guard. For a brief moment, it appeared the pressure had worked. Khomeini's deputies announced that the hijab rule would be temporarily suspended. The government tried to calm the situation and avoid further unrest. To many women, it felt like a victory.
Let me back that up just a little bit there. Did you see Arafat there? He was all for it. Watch.
Avoid further unrest.
Right there. See him? The guy from the Palestine people, Arafat, he was all for it.
Many women, it felt like a victory. It looked as though the state had listened. But this pause was strategic, not a change of heart. Once the protests faded and public attention moved on, the hardliners inside the regime began reorganizing. By mid-1980, enforcement returned with more force and far less tolerance. This time, the focus was not debate or persuasion. It was punishment. Revolutionary courts and Islamic committees were set up across the country to enforce moral.
You notice how they control the guns? We can never give up our guns here. If they controlled the guns, they could get away with doing whatever they wanted.
Behavior. These groups operated with enormous power and very little oversight. Their job was to punish anyone accused of breaking Islamic codes, and women were often the first targets. In cities and towns across Iran, judges began issuing harsh corporal punishments for behavior that had not been crimes just months earlier. Being seen with a man outside marriage, attending a mixed gathering, drinking alcohol, or showing too much hair could now lead to arrest and punishment. One of the earliest documented cases came just 11 days after Khomeini's hijab decree. On March 19, 1979, the Iranian newspaper Kayan reported a case from the northern city of Rodzar, near the Caspian Sea. A married woman with 3 children had run away with another man. Revolutionary officers arrested them and brought them before a judge. The court sentenced the woman to 50 lashes and the man to 100 lashes for having what the judge called an illegitimate relationship. The punishment was carried out publicly on a...
Marianne, you mean shoot a gun? Oh, you're afraid to shoot a gun? I would start with a real small one and practice with that for a little while. Or even a BB gun, you know? Just get the feel of it.
Street in Rodzar. People gathered and watched as a mother of 3 was whipped in front of them. Another report from Kayan that same month showed this was not an isolated incident. On March 8, 1979, while women were protesting the hijab decree in Tehran, a public flogging took place in Esfahan. 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman, were accused of having an affair with a woman labeled corrupt. Ayatollah Kademi, a revolutionary judge, ordered that all 3 receive 100 lashes each. They were flogged in the street in public view. After the beating, they were forced to repent on the spot before being released. These early cases made one thing clear: the new regime was willing to use public humiliation as a method of control. Revolutionary guards and committees of the Islamic Revolution were given wide authority to patrol neighborhoods, streets, and public spaces. They enforced modesty rules aggressively and often violently. Men and women accused of drinking alcohol, having relationships outside marriage, or showing signs of Western culture were arrested on the spot. In many cities, young couples were targeted simply for being close to each other. Holding hands or sitting too closely in a cinema could lead to slaps, beatings, or detention. By late 19...
All this they'd like to have here in America. The whole world, actually.
1979 and into 1980, flogging had become common. Victims were tied to posts in public squares or parks and whipped in front of crowds. By the end of 1979, even before the Iranian constitution was finalized, Khomeini had already shaped the country into a system ruled by strict versions of religious law. Revolutionary courts handed down thousands of sentences. Political opponents were imprisoned or executed, but women were more likely to receive corporal punishment. Any behavior labeled immoral could result in jail time or lashings. Fear became part of daily life. Women watched their surroundings carefully. Mothers warned their daughters. People whispered about vigilantes stationed on street corners. Even attending a private party could turn dangerous if someone reported it. Ordinary social life became risky. Despite all this, Khomeini continued to present himself publicly as a moral and restrained leader. He occasionally criticized punishments he felt were excessive. In 1980, after a stoning case in Kerman province, he reportedly instructed judges to stop using stoning sentences. He ordered a ban on stoning in the courts and said no more such executions should take place. This showed that he sometimes intervened personally, but this restraint had limits. His concern was not with the suffering of women or the system itself. Floggings, arrests, and public punishments for moral offenses,
he didn't want the backlash,
continued without pause. By 1980 and 1981, the early chaos of the revolution was turning into something permanent. The Islamic Republic began locking Khomeini's moral ideas into the legal system. A new constitution was adopted, and at its core was Sharia, or Islamic law. This meant religion was no longer just a guide for behavior. It was now the highest law.
Remember, see how they're all made to do that? Anyone that went against them in that, they'd torture them to death.
Law of the country. Every major rule about crime, punishment, and daily life had to follow religious interpretation. Gender roles were no longer social expectations. They were legal requirements, written clearly into the law.
I wonder what they do with the trans over there.
One of the first areas the government focused on was women's work. In July 1980, a new order came down that directly affected women employed by the state. Any woman who tried to enter a government office without covering her hair was stopped at the door. Guards were placed at ministry entrances to enforce this rule. Women were not warned or fined at first. They were simply turned away. Many were told not to come back until they followed the dress code. For women who depended on their jobs, this was devastating. Refusing the hijab now meant risking unemployment and public shame. The pressure didn't stop there. In 1981, the rule was expanded beyond government buildings. Hijab became mandatory in all public spaces. Streets, buses, shops, and parks were now included. Checkpoints appeared in cities where officers stopped women to inspect their clothing. Compliance was no longer optional anywhere outside the...
You know, they have a gun and... Is it Marianne that was talking about it? Yeah, Marianne, they have gun and rod clubs and stuff like that you can go to a few meetings and learn there.
Home. What a woman wore now determined whether she could move freely through her own city. By 1983, the government made the consequences...
Yeah, I could have played something like that. They'd stone girls that are like 11 and 12 years old. It was ridiculous. And it was her own father that was leading the whole damn thing. It's ridiculous.
Is unmistakably clear. A new criminal law spelled out punishment for violating the dress code. Under this law, a woman whose hair was uncovered could be sentenced by a court to up to 74 lashes. At the same time, the state fully revived severe Islamic punishments for sexual behavior. Crimes like adultery, fornication, and what the law called moral corruption were treated as major offenses. These charges often carried sentences of hundreds of lashes. In some cases, they could even lead to execution. During the early 1980s, thousands of women and men were sentenced to flogging, especially for accusations related to adultery or corruption on earth. Human rights groups later documented what this
accusations, no proof,
meant in real life. Women accused of improper veiling were flogged. Women accused of premarital or extramarital sex were imprisoned, and in some cases, stoned to death. The rules were simple but cruel. Break the moral code, and you could lose your freedom, your health, or your life. Women were hit hardest by these laws because their appearance and behavior were under constant scrutiny. The system that delivered these punishments was fast and unforgiving. Revolutionary courts and Islamic committees operated with almost no checks. Ayatollah Khomeini personally appointed revolutionary judges. These judges often issued sentences within days of an arrest. There was little investigation and almost no defense. An accusation could be enough. Confessions, often extracted under torture, sealed a person's fate. Judges openly justified their decisions using Khomeini's ideology. They argued that harsh punishment was necessary to cleanse society.
Roddick and the women they do that to, and the men they often behead. It's pretty insane.
Public executions of former officials and war criminals did take place. But what truly terrified ordinary families were the everyday punishments. Seeing a neighbor whipped in a public square, or a relative humiliated in front of a crowd, left deep psychological scars. By the mid-1980s, enforcement became even more visible. The so-called morality police, officially known as the Guidance Patrol, began operating openly in cities. They were joined by members of the Islamic.
That's why I'm saying that in the long run, stopping this Islam crap in Iran is going to cut down 70 or 90% of the funding for this Islamic terrorist.
Revolutionary committees. Some wore uniforms.
It's not going to stop it, but it's going to put a big dent in it.
Others wore plain clothes. This made them harder to identify and more frightening. Their job was to find violations of morality laws, especially bad hijab. Women were stopped on sidewalks and in marketplaces. Officers examined headscarves and coats. If a strand of hair showed, or a coat was judged too short, a woman could...
Yeah, when ISIS, they put some of these guys in cages and put gas on them and burned them to death, too. ISIS people did.
...be detained immediately. Human rights reports describe women being slapped, stripped, beaten, or dragged into police vans without any explanation. Many Iranian women remember how this fear shaped their daily routines. They stood still at red lights, afraid to move suddenly. Some worried that if they adjusted their scarf the wrong way, an officer might grab them from behind using a catch pole, a metal tool designed to seize a person by the neck. This threat of punishment was everywhere, and women learned through experience to stay quiet and cautious.
I know
flogging
Pat,
became a public
Marianne,
spectacle
agree.
across
I've
the
seen
country.
A lot of that stuff.
Sentences were carried out in mosques, markets,
Problem is, you can get a strike playing that on these platforms, a lot of them.
and town squares. Sometimes shops closed while a punishment took place. People who lived through this period
I know they cheer for it because they believe in that crap.
remember the sound of the whip cracking through the air. It became a common and terrifying noise. Punishment did not stop with flogging.
They got to get into the 21st century instead of out of about the 12th century.
Women faced fines, arrests, and long prison sentences. Families were pulled into the system as well. Husbands could be jailed if their wives appeared in public without a
Actually, in a way, it's good they do record it so that other people can learn of it, though.
hijab. The education system was reshaped to match the new ideology. Girls were segregated from boys starting
Now, Colin, are you getting any honor killings in Britain yet? Honor killings where the family will actually kill their younger kids, especially the daughters.
in primary school. Certain fields, including religious studies and engineering, enforced especially strict dress rules. Public beaches and parks were segregated or closed entirely to mixed groups. At the same time,
These commies are willing to team up with them, with these idiots, just to get their socialism so bad. They think everything's going to be free. Bullcrap. Look at how it's working in New York City.
stoning quietly returned in remote areas where oversight was weak. In
I agree,
1986,
Miriam.
one of the most infamous cases took place. A 35-year-old village woman, known as Soraya Manucheri, a pseudonym, was accused of adultery with a local widower. Her husband wanted to marry a teenage girl and saw Soraya
So she was falsely accused. Her husband had her stoned to death so he could be with this other woman.
as an obstacle. In a small village court, under pressure and intimidation, Soraya was sentenced to death by stoning. On August 15th, 1986, villagers gathered in Coupé to carry out the sentence. Soraya was buried
Kirk,
up to her.
You know, the thing here in New York, what they've done is they tax the bullets so hard to get them. It takes you like 11 years to get a gun permit to start with, and then they tax the bullets so high, it's really hard to get them. You have to get them on the black market pretty much.
Her waist and killed slowly as stones were thrown at her by a crowd. Her execution later became widely known through the book and film, The Stoning of Soraya M. Punishments that stopped short of execution were still brutal. A sentence of several hundred lashes could permanently damage a person's body. The new penal code also brought back other severe penalties. Theft could result in amputation. Drinking alcohol could lead to flogging and heavy fines. Crimes like waging war against God carried the death penalty. Women were not exempt from any of this. A woman caught drinking could be publicly humiliated, whipped in prison, or jailed. Girls were arrested simply for being with male friends or attending mixed-gender parties. The state labeled ordinary social behavior as criminal acts. In public speeches, Khomeini defended these laws. He described them as just, Islamic, and necessary. He said modesty protected families and purified society. But inside homes, the reality was different. Mothers cried in private. Parents kept daughters home from school out of fear.
They wouldn't learn then.
By 1989, Ayatollah Khomeini was old and seriously ill. The revolution that had once filled the streets with hope now felt distant and broken for many Iranians. What Iran had become instead was...
I don't know. I don't own a gun, John. I would buy one if I could here, but it's so hard in New York State, upper New York State. I always believed, because I was a boxer and wrestler and everything, I could take care of myself, this and that, until Antifa attacked down in D.C., and it was like 20 against 1,
A country shaped by fear, war, and constant surveillance. The Iran-Iraq War had taken hundreds of thousands of lives. Political purges, executions, and prisons had torn families apart. And for women, daily life had become a careful exercise in avoiding punishment. When Khomeini...
Colin, were they arrested for the honor killings? Anything happened to them? Or they judge on Sharia courts there? I know you have some Sharia courts, and they do go by that law in England in some places.
Died in June 1989, millions mourned him publicly. But privately, many Iranians reflected on the cost of his rule. By then, an entire generation had grown up knowing nothing else. Children born around the time of the revolution entered adulthood having lived their entire lives under these strict laws. The system Khomeini built didn't end with his death. It continued, almost unchanged. The dress codes and morality laws he introduced remained part of Iranian law for decades. The campaigns of the 1980s were not forgotten. Women remembered the street patrols, the arrests, and the public punishments. Human rights reports later documented that in the years after Khomeini's death, thousands of Iranian women were still being arrested simply because of their clothing. The methods stayed the same. Women were slapped or beaten by patrols. They were dragged into vans using catch poles. Some were jailed, others were sentenced to lashes. These punishments were no longer treated as emergencies or temporary crackdowns. They became part of how the state enforced control. Families adjusted their behavior around them. Parents warned daughters to stay quiet and avoid attention. Husbands worried that their wives' clothing could bring trouble to the entire household. Fear shaped routine decisions, from what time to leave home to which streets felt safest to walk. For those who lived through the early years of the Islamic Republic, memories of Khomeini's campaigns still carry heavy emotion. Many recall them with anger, others with deep sadness. Public shaming and violence did not just punish individuals. They damaged trust inside families and communities. Over time, some of Khomeini's harshest policies were softened. Later leaders eased certain rules. International pressure sometimes stopped a public whipping or delayed a harsh sentence. But the core system remained intact. The laws introduced during Khomeini's rule had already done their work. They turned women's bodies into symbols of obedience and tools of political power. What Khomeini left behind was not just a legal system, but a culture of fear built into daily life. For many Iranian women, the shadow of that period never fully lifted. It still follows them, step by step through the streets.
I don't know what everyone think of that. Let me close that. I'm going to be talking about SARS a little bit later. That's a Kurdish woman who was killed by ISIS and that. I'm going to be playing some of that. I should get to her stupid profile. I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit, though. I'll play a few more videos here. Where am I? Here. Okay.
Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, condemned the military escalation taken by the United States and Israel against the Iranian regime, saying it undermines international peace and security. Antonio, for the love of God, shut the fuck up. We are tired of you. Last month, whilst the Iranian regime was slaughtering tens of thousands of Iranian civilians, you congratulated them on their anniversary. You hypocrite. You do not get to weigh in on peace and security when you propped up the entity responsible for all of the instability in the Middle East. Why does Hamas exist? Iran. Why does Hezbollah exist?
Wow,
Iran.
Rod.
Why do the Houthis exist? Iran.
Get some sleep, Rod. I don't know what time zone you're in, though, but yeah.
Who made the IEDs that blew up American soldiers in Iraq? Iran. Who was building an extremely secretive, unchecked nuclear program? Iran. Why are there military bases in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in the UAE, in Qatar? To protect them from who? The Islamic Republic of Iran. And despite all of this, what did you and your sordid organization do? You gave them legitimacy. The UN elevated the Islamic Republic of Iran into positions of power within the UN, allowing them to chair multiple committees and multiple bodies, including human rights.
They put him on the Human Rights Committee, along with China, who has the Weebans who are enslaved.
Joke. Your organization is a joke. So whilst I and millions of other individuals around the world celebrate the success of the US and Israel's joint strike and celebrate the beginning of the end of an oppressive, tyrannical, murderous regime that has violated every single human right known to man and that's held the good people of Iran in shackles for 47 years, you and your useless organization can rot in hell, along with Khomeini, Nasrallah, Sinwar, Daif, Hania, Shamkhani, and all the others who dared to threaten humanity. Fuck you.
Yeah, I second that. I was going to do the Charlie Kirk one next.
I know that you're a Christian, and I guess my kind of concerns is like Islamophobia.
Are you Muslim?
Yes, I am.
What is the best model for a Muslim country in your view?
I guess, like...
Do you enjoy not having to cover yourself in public?
Yeah, I guess.
So that you don't like Islam very much then, because majority of Islamic countries would require you to have full garb in public.
That's not fair to say that.
You literally could not dress like this in the streets of Riyadh as a woman. This is way too provocative, way too much skin. You as a woman, you don't have freedom of speech. You can't run for public office. You can't own property. Islam is against Western values. It's incompatible with Western values. And we in the West actually think you should have the rights that you have right now to speak and to be able to show, the skin you show here and, be able to have a happy life.
I agree. He handles it very well, I tell you.
دانشجویان دانشگاه آمریکا نه تخریب کردن نه تخریب کردن نه شعار تخریب دادن نه شیشه ای رو شکستن. نگاه کنید به این دانشگاه آمریکا.
Ali Khamenei commended you guys as members of the resistance front.
The revolutionists of the U.S. are aspiring members of the Axis of Resistance and the Resistance Front. I think that we have a lot to learn from the Axis of Resistance movement.
دانشجویان دانشگاه آمریکا
just play that? I'm sorry.
تخریب کردن.
This is exactly why President Trump appointed Pete Hegseth as our Secretary of War. This is going viral. You got to see it.
When President Trump appointed me as your Secretary of War, I made you a series of promises. I promised that every single one of your taxpayer dollars would go toward one thing and one thing only: building the most lethal fighting force on the planet. And I promised we would gut the corruptive, unconstitutional, non-merit-based DEI programs that have weakened our military and distracted us from our primary mission. And I promised we would hunt down the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that has run rampant in this department for decades. and to instead redirect that money to President Trump's America First priorities. Well, today we are once again taking action on these promises. We're actually taking a sledgehammer to the oldest DEI program in the federal government, a program few people outside of Washington have ever heard of, that I hadn't heard of. It's called the 8A program. Now, if you're like me, you're asking yourself, what is an 8A? It's a great question. 8A refers to the Small Business Administration's program to assist, quote, small, disadvantaged businesses owned by a socially disadvantaged individual or tribe, end quote. Providing these small businesses with opportunities is a laudable goal. But over the decades, as it happens, the 8A program has morphed into swamp code words for DEI, race-based contracting. And here's the worst part. In many, many instances, these socially disadvantaged businesses, they don't even do work. They take a 10%, 20%, sometimes 50% fee off the top and then pass the contract off to a giant consulting firm, commonly known as Beltway bandits. For decades, this program, 8A, has been a breeding ground for fraud, and this administration is finally doing something about it. The Department of Justice under Attorney General Pam Bondi recently exposed $500 million in 8A fraud. Treasury, led by Secretary Bessent, found another $250 million, and their investigation is just beginning. Treasury, Justice, and the Small Business Administration under Administrator Loeffler are all actively investigating their 8A contracts right now. Now, in the Pentagon, $100 million sole source contracts go out the door to these 8A firms almost every day. $100 million sole source contracts go out our door to these 8A firms almost every day, without any competition or opportunity for anyone else to bid. The Department of War is required by law to do almost $100 billion worth of contracts per year with small businesses, including 8A firms. Seems 8A is quite important. But we're not required to pay enormous brokerage fees, only to have these firms pass those contracts along to giant consulting companies. And we won't. We're not doing this anymore. So effective immediately, I'm ordering a line-by-line review of every small business sole source 8A contract that is over $20 million. And we'll look at everything smaller than that too. The Department of War has the biggest chunk of 8A spending by far, 10 times more than any other agency. So our cleanup, it's going to be 10 times tougher.
Oh.
It's a two-stage mission. First, if a contract doesn't make us more lethal, it's gone. We have no room in our budget for wasteful DEI contracts that don't help us win wars, period, full stop. Second, we're doing away with these pass-through schemes. We'll make sure that every small business getting a contract is the one actually doing the work, and not just some shell company funneling your money to a giant consulting firm. This approach is, of course, not meant to hurt small businesses, and that's not the point. America is full of great, amazing small businesses. This is part of a larger effort to transform our acquisition ecosystem into one that makes sense for the threats we face in the 21st century. I gave a long speech about this back in November. Our goal is to spend your money to build our defense industrial base with businesses large and small that share our mission, not to line the pockets of Beltway fraudsters or to advance the agenda of DEI apologists. Only lethality, and we're going to look at
I kind of think all the books of the government should be open, wide open, so at least we get the information so people can go through it and point out where they're screwing us.
every single contract.
So comment below with your reaction, your thoughts to Pete Hegseth as our Secretary of War. We are 1 year into the Trump administration, and I can confidently say that I could not be more pleased.
Better than the trans ones. That's all I can say. That's for sure.
And let me say this in English so you can understand what I'm saying.
Now, he's from a Muslim country, a leader in a Muslim country. Listen what he's saying.
And let me say this in English so you can understand what I'm saying.
I have translation.
No, I know you have translation, but I just want to make sure you get it right. There will come a day that we will see far more radical extremists and terrorists coming out of Europe because of the lack of decision making, trying to be politically correct, or assuming that they know the Middle East and they know Islam and they know the others far better than we do. And I'm sorry, but that's pure ignorance.
Yep, it is.
Republican Josh Hawley just put out the most mind-blowing video. You've got to see this.
Alexander Hamilton warned that foreign powers would try to exploit America's freedoms to sow divisions inside our country. Well, today we are confronting a raft of allegations and reports that foreign influence and foreign money is making its way into the American political system and is financing activities that is not only destructive, detrimental, and divisive, but also potentially illegal. What organizations have been active on the ground in Minnesota? What can you tell us?
We have tracked over $60 million to approximately 14 groups, some of them national, others on the ground.
Where's this money coming from?
Networks like the Soros Network, the Arabella Funding Network. They'll fund directly some of these on-the-ground organizations. And we've seen this happen time and again. It's not just in Minnesota. The foreign money is probably the most concerning, whether it's from Neville Roy Singham or the Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Wyss.
Hey,
You're telling me that
Brody,
protest, quote unquote, protest activity we've seen in Los Angeles, we've seen in Minnesota, we've seen in other places that often turns violent, that some of this, maybe much of it, is funded by overseas money, including by this individual who has ties to the Chinese Communist Party? Are the majority of these protests spontaneous or more organized?
They're highly organized and coordinated. They've trained some 30,000 observers to get in the middle of the protests.
How would you describe the tactics that are used?
Doxing. We've seen instances of violence against federal agents. One had their finger bitten off, and they've been pelted with frozen bottles, stones, and every other type of thing, in addition to directly interfering with legal law enforcement.
At the same time, more and more Americans are rightly concerned about the use of their tax dollars and where their tax money is being spent around the country. If you are a hardworking American taxpayer, you must feel so taken advantage of. In the last 2 years alone, nearly $700 million in cold, hard cash was stuffed into suitcases and flown out of Minneapolis. 70% of that loot flows overseas.
It goes to terrorism. It goes to child trafficking. It goes to drugs. That's all funded by people like me that pay taxes.
His tax money is being used to buy other people luxury items, cars, yachts, whatever else, and is going to fund terrorism and child trafficking?
Yes, sir.
$1 trillion a year on this stuff?
$115 million an hour.
Listen, at the end of the day, this hearing is about a simple question. Is our government equipped to safeguard taxpayers?
Every hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Dollars. Protect the rule of law and defend our institutions from exploitation, because right now it sure doesn't look like it. And it's time we got some answers for the American people.
We just had a fascinating conversation with a senior Iranian Kurdish official here who told us that Iranian Kurdish opposition forces are preparing for a ground operation inside Western Iran in the coming days. And he told us that they're anticipating U.S. and Israeli support as part of this operation. He wouldn't give us any details as to what that support looks like. And he said that U.S. President Donald Trump had actually called the leader of one of these Iranian Kurdish opposition parties just today. Now, this comes as we're also getting new reporting from my...
No, this video is a couple days old, so I heard it about the same time she did, or maybe a little bit before she did.
My colleagues, Natasha Bertrand, Elena Treen, and Zachary Cohen in D.C., that the CIA has been working to arm Kurdish forces with the aim of fomenting a popular uprising inside Iran. Obviously, this is fraught with risk and complexity for many reasons, not least of which these Iranian Kurdish forces are operating here in Iraqi Kurdistan. And the Iraqi Kurdish leadership here does not want to be seen as anything other than neutral in this conflict. The relationships that they have, challenging that they may be, with Turkey and with Iran are important to them.
Yeah, they get their cut on the money there, Marianne and John. Let me grab the next video. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Why don't I go back? Oh, all right, here we go.
The United States has been working with Iranian Kurdish fighters based inside Iran to try and foment some kind of rebellion. We understand that since the end of the 12-day war back in June, there has been a steady supply of weapons crossing the border into the hands of Kurdish fighters in order to allow them to build up a well-armed fighting force. Now, sources we've been speaking to within the Kurdish community tell us that that operation could begin within days. It would be a huge undertaking and not necessarily one that could end in success, because they will meet the full force of Iranian security apparatus. In the last few days, we've seen a number of airstrikes carried out by the US on certain parts of the Iranian security set up in the west of the country, and it's likely that they were done in order to try and kind of clear the ground to allow the Kurdish fighters to move forward. But we also know that there have been multiple Iranian strikes in their territory as well, and that is likely to have been an attempt to try and thwart any plan that they might have had. Now, it is difficult to know how successful this would be. It is a huge undertaking, and we've seen attempts at rebellion being put down very harshly in the past. It is something that the Kurds will enter incredibly cautiously, because, of course, they have history with the United States. They have fought alongside them. They have done their work for them before and been abandoned, and they will want to avoid that being the case on this occasion.
That was a bummer that abandoned them, for sure. Let me show you a couple pilots. This is USA pilots. Watch this.
Wait, real quick. Hey, just wanted to say thanks to everyone watching and sticking around. Come on in. Scoot over. Ready? 3, 2, 1. USA! USA! All things since 1916. In your head. In your head. What's in your head?
Got another one here.
I was caught in the middle of a railroad track. I looked round and I knew there was no turning back. My mind raced and I thought, what could I do? And I knew there was no help from you. So I left the drums beating in my heart. The thunder of guns tore me apart.
Yep, I think that's all. Pretty proud of them, I tell you. Especially the, pilots. It's a little different when you're in hand-to-hand combat, but pilots, I totally think they can do. All right, I want to slightly change the subject. Now, I've been telling you for a long time that I'm friends with a lot of Kurdish people and this and that, and then some of them are spies, type thing. They help me with finding these ISIS people and this and that. And this person is dead. Her name's Zarza. And talking to her and the YPG and this and that. There is a difference in the Kurdish fighters now. The ones in Iran tend to be capitalist. Now, the ones in the YPJ and this and that and the Peshmerga, they tend to be more socialist, and don't agree with them on that, but I totally was against ISIS for them. Anyways, Zarza was a friend of mine, and she was helping me find people and translating. Actually, she spent some time in England. She went to college there, actually. She was probably like 38, 39 when she was fighting here. How she ended up fighting, for everyone in chat here. Let me get back over to chat so I can see what you're saying. Anyways, how she ended up fighting is near Kirkuk. ISIS was taking over parts of Iraq, and they were on the other side. coming up on the side of the mountain, and there was like about 25 orphan kids. She took them to the other side of the mountain. She walked with them and guided them over the mountain to safety because they were about to take over Kirkuk at the time. They'd already gotten Mosul, which is northern Iraq. And when she came back, she was thinking the whole way to protect them. She thought she'd join the YPJ. There's YPG, which is the guys, and the YPJ, which is the woman's outfit. And the Peshmerga, which are Iraqi Kurdish. The other ones are more Turkish and Syria, YPJ and YPG. So she joined them, and they would do like 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And here she is talking to me that she was going out to Kirkuk to fight. Actually, they had taken Kirkuk by then. That's where she was from, actually. It's hard to explain. But anyways, and then she was talking to me about coming back and this and that. This is 2014. I was talking to her, and I was talking about trying to get some bills through Congress to help them get some more hand weapons and this and that. They had really old, ancient weapons they're fighting with. They're pretty good fighting. Sometimes I was having some other people talk to me. They're saying this is not Zarza. Some of the other friends were using her phone, other YPJ people telling me. Anyways, eventually, when she had her 1 week off for this, trying to come back to fight, ISIS caught her, 3 girls, 3 of them, and they caught her, and they strung her up, and they raped her and beat her, all 3 of them, for like 3 days. And what they were doing is they were cutting the wounds, and then they put salt in it so they wouldn't bleed to death, but it would cause tremendous pain. And they had them strung up by the arms, like this, and they'd have them hanging just off their feet, and they loved to hear them screaming. And they'd literally almost torture them to death. Then they'd cut some of their hands and feet off and stuff like that, and then they'd burn them. They'd burn them to death. And it was pretty hard to find that out. I won't show the rest of the message with her, but I had about 4 or 5 that did die, but I was very close to this young lady. I think she was 38. I don't know exactly. And so anyways, that's why I'm kind of close to them. They were fighting ISIS. I know it's supposed to be Muslim because they're made to be Muslim there, but they really don't believe that crap, So it's part of the reason why I follow it. And I know damn well they had the chance, they'd drive this crap out of their areas, like in Iran, and they'd like to drive it out of other areas, in other countries if they really had a real vote and a real elections there, So, anyways, and so they sent the videos back to the YPJ and this and that to try to scare them and this and that. At least that's how we found out what had happened to them, because they showed the videos of them torturing them and burning them and all that kind of stuff. Then they sent their identification tags back, I guess, or left them someplace for them to pick them up. So in any case, and I know many other ones. I tried to get them come on the thing, but right now they're a little afraid to come on as guest. I was trying to get Quail to come on and Miriam. Neither one of those are the real names. The one lady, Miriam, there was caught by ISIS and she escaped after 3 days of raping her. But in any case, so hi Charles, by the way. So this is kind of, I know I talk to them a lot and this and that, and everyone thinks, oh, they're Muslim, but a lot of them are in Muslim in name only. They really don't believe that crap, So especially the women, the guys, you can't communicate with trust. It's amazing how many of them can translate and speak many languages. The guys, it's hard to trust because if they really are Muslim, they believe they can lie to get away with what they're saying, So, did I play this one? Oh yeah, I did. I played that one. Okay. I'm going to go to Katie Hopkins to get off the subject for a little bit.
Breaking news here in batshit bonkers Britain. Over in Iran, you'll know the Ayatollah Khomeini was reduced to dust by the Americans and the Israelis, so a new leader is required. Now, the Ayatollah had 4 sons. They're called Mustafa, Mujtaba, Masood, and Mesham. Catchy. He also had 2 daughters, but no one gives a damn about them in Iran because they're women. Either which way, his eldest son has given it a swerve. See what you did there, Mustafa? Nice one. Mujtaba is going to step up. Now, Mujtaba in Arabic means chosen or selected one, which is kind of fitting because Mujtaba has now been selected by Israel as being the next Iranian to be eliminated.
I believe that's the second oldest son now. So this would be the 5th person, I believe, 4th or 5th.
In other news, Brewdog treats its shareholders and its staff horribly. Basically, Brewdog was set up by 2 guys, which is James Watt and Martin Dickey. James Watt's the guy that's married to that Toffolo bird with the blonde hair that gobs off a lot on Instagram. Any the which way, they took 400 quid from over 220,000 investors, some investing a whole lot more. They sold out to an equity firm, pocketed allegedly 100 million quid themselves. And now that Brewdog is teetering on the edge of collapse, the investors are going to get nothing back. And worse, Brewdog staff that have worked shifts have been told when they were fired in a 15-minute phone call to apply to the insolvency services to get paid for shift work they've already done. And that means they need to be paid from the public purse. That's us, while the big boys walk off with all the cash. And finally, Angela Rayner, the ginger growler. She was the one that was housing minister but had to resign in disgrace because she hadn't been paying her property taxes. Do you recall? Well, guess what? She's going to trouser in her vile Primani trousers £15,000 to be keynote speaker at, guess what, a property and landlord conference over the summer. You could not make this shit up. That's it for today. Batshit Bonkers Britain.
She's always pretty good. I like their little shorts like that. I know. I tell you.
Property of Allah on his sweatshirt, t-shirt had an Iranian flag, Quran in his car, shouted Allah Akbar, born in Senegal, and the leftist media is still trying to figure out what his motives could have possibly been. This is what open borders gets you.
Oh, they know what it is. They're trying to find another excuse to label it as. Maybe a white supremacist somehow. It just doesn't quite work.
This is a result of lax immigration policies. Far too many leftists fail to understand that there's a large portion of the world that would like to see the United States, the West, fall, that would like to enslave us and force their culture and religion onto us because they believe they have been called to do so by their God, because that's what their religion and culture teaches. We cannot comprehend it in the West because we have the privilege of freedom. And I want to fight for you. I really want to fight for these women, specifically women, to remain clueless, to have so much privilege that they don't know what's out there. But you're not helping. You're voting against it. You're protesting against it. There is a reason for secure borders. There is a reason for deportations. There is a reason for Trump's travel ban. And that reason is to keep us safe and give future generations the same freedoms that we have been gifted by previous generations. Living in fear of sleeper cells being activated, living in fear of our women and children being mass raped, which is what's happening in Europe, that's a choice we make at the ballot box. It's a choice Europe is currently suffering the consequences of. There is no room to tolerate a culture that wants us dead. No one should have been shot in Texas. That was a direct result of policy decisions.
Yep. There's a funny. I think it is.
Breaking news, New Yorkers have mixed feelings this morning. Mayor Mamdani has ordered flags on all state buildings to be flown at half-mast as Muslim Americans mourn the murder of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini.
Can you believe that? He's putting our flags half-staff for that? Oh, no words, no words.
There are certain specialties that are very competitive to get into. And for foreign medical graduates, again, we're going back to this whole thing about a finite number of positions, right? And we're talking about residency now. We're not talking about medical school. You know, this is where you have graduated medical school in another country and you're applying for a residency program. That there are certain residency programs like psychiatry, even though psychiatry is extremely important and we have a shortage of it. But there are many spots that may be a little unfilled. Same thing with family practice, even though it's extremely important, internal medicine. Those would be specialties that may be a little bit easier to get into. Specialties like anesthesiology, surgery, ophthalmology, plastic surgery, et cetera. It'd be very, very difficult. Now, what I can kind of share with you, and this is a little bit unique, is that 9 states have already passed a law that have created a pathway for licensure for those who have graduated overseas. Texas, in fact, this morning I was on a conference call with the governor's office and in Texas, Senator Sparks on the Senate side and Representative Albertson on the House side, preparing legislation that would somewhat create a pathway like that here in Texas.
To get more Muslims, Islamists in here. Don't worry, we'll pay for it, I'm sure. Guarantee it.
This message is for all of those out there who have become the so-called Iran experts now. This is for Tucker Carlson's, Anna Kasparian, Cenk Unger, who all of a sudden you think you know everything. You actually know nothing. You actually speak completely as an ignorant fools. Did you grow up in Iran during the Shah? No, I did. And so did many others. Did you grow up in Iran after the revolution when this Islamic totalitarian regime took over and live under that regime for almost a
Charles, keep it over there.
decade? No, I did. I lived there till 1986.
A lot of times they'll come over here on our dime and repay for their education too.
Did you have your dad
teach
get
them to be
jailed
good little
because
commies?
he refused to go with political corruption and religious persecution? No, I did. Did you have your mom get shot because she stuck her head out of the window without the hijab and almost got shot? No, I did. There are countless other Iranian patriots who have experienced the same thing. We lived through before and after.
YouTube.
We know what it happens. And for you to all be blabbing your mouth, thinking what is right for Iran, you know nothing. It's not Israel. It's not the United States who's pushing for regime change. It's the 80 million people who've been captured by this brutal, menacing, evil regime that has taken us hostage, murdered so many people. And Anna, you living your freedom and thinking it's the same. You have not been whiplashed like my wife did. You have not been thrown acid on your face when countless women have. You have not had your eye taken out for showing makeup. None of you have gone through, experienced anything close to this. And for you to say regime change is a bad idea, who the hell are you to be talking about this? The people want the regime change. We just want help. As Reza Pahlavi said, there's only so long we can hold the Alamo. 12,000 people dead, probably more and counting. Over 10,000 plus arrested, about to get executed and counting. Okay, we need the cavalry. We need the help. Okay, this regime only understands one thing: brutal force. The time is now. The people want the regime change. The people have spoken. You know nothing about Pahlavi. You haven't followed him at all for the last 4 decades. You're all opportunistic who now making your fame because you think you're the sole expert. You only care about yourselves. Shame on you guys, and shame on you, Tucker, for basically going on the platform, and the Iranian regime is now showing your platform. Shame on you for fostering their propaganda and perpetuating their propaganda. You are the reason why people are getting murdered because of your nonsense. So I suggest to all of you, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about.
No
and
kebabs?
Ken Martin of the DNC, really? Comparing the Trump administration to the Iranian regime with your tweet? Seriously? Do you have any moral, even an ounce of moral and dignity? You're such an insult.
Charles, exactly about the H-1B.
Fellow patriots who've been getting murdered,
scamming that whole thing
and getting
too.
imprisoned and tortured. Seriously?
You know, some of those H-1Bs that the people don't even exist, and they're getting money for it.
Is this how you what is the moral equivalency? This is outrageous. I suggest you think about what you wrote. And perhaps, maybe if you have an ounce of decency, which I won't hold my breath, maybe you'll come back and say something. And for all of you out there, seriously, stop it. You know nothing about it. I want to thank the countless people it's too many people to name who have risen up, the social media influencers, David Harris, Hadass Levy, DC Jueno.
That's a good name, yeah.
Laura
College
Loomer,
kids,
of course. On and on, I can go there.
What's happening is the Islam's teaming up with the socialists to take down America. That's what they're trying to do.
You guys, I'm sorry I'm not...
And it's exactly what happened in Iran in 79. They're trying to do the exact same thing they did there in 79. The socialists, and what happened is Islam killed the socialists after they got control.
Mentioning everybody,
but
I'm very thankful for standing up for the Iranian people and for you to come out with moral clarity. And to all my Iranian patriots, I see you. We all see you. We hear you. We are with you. We're going to topple this regime with help of President Trump. President Trump, thank you. We know you have the Iranian people's back. We appreciate you. We salute you. God bless you. Zan, Zendegi, Azadi, Javid Shah.
I'm going to change it up a little bit with Puddin.
Will everyone please join me in just a brief moment of silence as we bid farewell to the political career of Jasmine Crockett. Moment of silence. Thoughts and prayers for Jasmine's career. But Jazzy, I do got just one simple question for you, sweet cheeks. How exactly did Republicans cheat when you lost the race to another Democrat? And I think that's a fair question to ask right now since you're out here on this press tour saying all this. I mean, were there a bunch of GOP sneaking into a Democratic primary wearing blue wigs and donkey pins? And I keep telling you that wig glue is...
She's got to push that whole narrative all the time, though. The racist.
Seeping into them brain cells. Because if you lose to your own daggum party, that's not election interference.
Their party knew that it was bad news if she was going to be on the ticket.
What that boils down to is your own teammates looking at the roster and saying, yeah, we need to put somebody else in the game. Hey, look here, sister. I know you thought you had this one in the bag when you brought out old Cardi B. And truth be told, you probably should have took some notes from when Kamala Harris brought her out. Didn't work out too good. But hey, look at the bright side, Jazzy. Since you don't have a political career to focus on anymore, you might want to give old Cardi B a call back, see if she has any openings on her tour. Because by judging...
No, how many think that Jazz Crockett there is going to get some gig out, like on some type of show like the View or something, so she can spew her racist crap all the time.
By all those campaign TikToks you were doing, being a backup dancer seems like the next logical career pivot. But blaming a bunch of Republicans for losing a Democratic primary, that's like burning your own daggum dinner and then yelling at your neighbor because your smoke alarm went off. Baby, that wasn't sabotage. Nay. That more looked like a self-inflicted political faceplant. Bless it.
Yeah. The wig glue, that was too much, I tell you.
What does Trump's new shipping insurance declaration for the Strait of Hormuz, Iran, Venezuela, and the Panama Canal and China all have in common? Well, come on down this rabbit hole with me, and believe it or not, it starts right here in America with protests. I couldn't help but notice that all the protests in the U.S. within hours of the Iranian strike,
Tammy, that's her narrative.
In fact, they're all
blaming the GOP is their narrative. White Christians. She's got to keep that going. It gets her a lot of money. I guarantee she's still going to get more donations.
all carrying bundles of signs to distribute to the crowd. Look at the nice yellow, black writing. And have you ever noticed that all the people protesting these airstrikes in Iran have the exact same signs, exact same fonts, exact same colors, and in many cases, some of these appear to be the same people from the Venezuela protest a month ago. Also, these signs look very similar to the ICE Out protest we saw all across the country, starting in Minnesota, too. Why? That's because they're being funded by the same people. Well, actually, the same country, China. A New York-based leftist group identified by the State Department as linked to the Chinese Communist Party, the People's Forum, that our own State Department has linked back to China. So who are these folks? They're a New York City-based nonprofit organization operating tax-exempt, by the way, founded in 2017. And who do they get money from? Oh, look, according to the House Ways and Means Committee, the People's Forum admitted to receiving over $20 million in funding from Neville Roy Singman, wealthy U.S. expat living in Shanghai with long documents.
And they held the voting open in her area even a couple hours more. They moved it from 7 till 9 p.m. to try to stuff the ballots even more, John.
Ties to the CCP. Fun fact also, this guy's married to Jody Evans. She's the founder of Code Pink, who used to be really critical of China until she got married to him back in 2017. And then she all of a sudden became like awful friendly to China. Weird, right? But the real question is, why would China fund protests in America? This is actually really simple. And this is something that CNN and all their brilliant military and political analysts have all missed. Trump is not doing these strategic strikes and ops in a vacuum. Our number one global competitor and the biggest risk to our superiority, both economically and a bit militarily, China. And since China's doing everything they can to hurt us on trade and currency manipulation and a number of other things, Trump said, okay, I can play that game too, and I'm better at it. You guys, being China, import 70% of the oil to your economy that it requires to function. So Xi Jinping, hold my beer. China,
all the NGO money's tax exempt too.
Gets, or actually got, 3 to 5% of its oil from Venezuela. It's not a lot, but it's enough of an interest to have China place anti-aircraft radars and surface-to-air missiles in Venezuela to protect those interests that, by the way, we took out in like a nanosecond. So when we kidnapped Maduro, China funded protest here to try to dissuade any further.
Well, I did say you're supposed to be able to vote on either side, whatever you wanted. But they had sheriffs lined up to make sure the Republicans and Democrats were separate in different lines. And she had a bad turnout there, I guess, for her.
Further intervention because of political pressure in Venezuela, because they thought they could just install another China-friendly head of state and keep the oil spigot running. Trump shut that down with a naval blockade and letting any potential would-be leader know that we'll snatch you in the middle of the night too. And then started.
Colin, CNN, I hope it goes off the air. I hear that Republican, what is it, Walsh or Wells? I forgot what his name was. Kind of Republican, he's moderate, might end up buying CNN.
Directing that oil towards us.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in.
Yeah, it makes it a lot harder to cheat when you have to show ID. That way you can't just keep getting in different lines and keep voting.
Spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
Fast forward a month, came the Iran strikes this weekend. And again, within 24 hours, mass protests here in America.
I thought, John, I heard that she was complaining that Republicans were getting in the line and voting for her competitor against her. I don't know how it works exactly in Texas.
Same signs from the same group, but this time supporting Iran. And would you look at that? China's heavy reliance on Iranian oil, that is why China is funding this round of protests, because in that
Venezuela and Iranian oil, and Trump's cut both those off. And that's hurting Cuba too. Cuba might go down on its own.
Last month, Trump has taken away over 20% of their oil supply. By the way, that is paid for in the yen, not dollars under the BRICS currency umbrella. 90% of the oil leaving Iran was going to China. Yes, of course, Iran was a state sponsor of terror and has killed thousands of Americans and was building a nuclear weapon. And that was the primary reason to do what he did. However,
I know the Democrats play in the Republican primaries all the time, trying to get us moderates and bad candidates.
This was a pretty close second that no one is talking about. And a few libs picked up on this, like screaming, it's all about the oil. Of course it's about the oil. So what? Trump's the first guy to actually not deny that, by the way. Iran has what is believed to be 20 trillion in oil reserves, another 10 trillion in gold, lithium, copper, and a bunch of other things that were all being traded in the yen, not the dollar. These are all factors that go into the global policy, folks. Just so stay with me here. Henry Kissinger.
One of the biggest problems they have in Iran is that for years they've haven't kept their aqueducts and the water flow from the north to the southern part of the country flowing very well because they've neglected. They spent all their money on funding terrorism and giving money to Hamas and those types of groups.
Knew this, which is why China was challenging the deal he made with the Saudis decades ago that, quote, all oil would be sold in U.S. dollars, the petrodollar.
Okay.
And if America
Thanks,
lost that deal, if China came in with the yen and started...
I know, I seen someone do a video, though. He was talking about how the cops were asking him if they were Republican and Democrat and making them separate. And so the line for the Republican side was real long because it was a Republican area. Instead of Democrat, you should have been able to go up to whatever booth and vote whichever way you want.
Trading all the oil on the yen, America could actually lose our ability to print money, which would implode our economy with the debt we have. Trump just stopped that dead in its tracks, and no one's giving him credit for it. No one's talking about it. No one's covering it. All these things are related. Trump's push to take back the Panama Canal from China, people laughed at him. They thought it was a joke. But what it did was it actually forced a huge swath of China's trade to spend an extra $30 million per boat to go around South America. Greenland, massive national resources. People thought it was like some pet project. It makes us not reliant on China for rare earth metals, who we know, by the way, China has been securing massive mineral rights all around the world, including moving into Afghanistan right after we left it for lithium mining with their Belt and Road Initiative. It appears Trump is like the only one trying to keep China contained here, too. And everyone else is just absolutely asleep at the wheel. In fact, they're buying the stuff from China en masse rather than from us. You probably noticed that the stock market's going a little bit crazy today. First off, calm down. It'll come right back. It'll be fine. It's one day. Mostly, though, because the Strait of Hormuz being shut down. And everyone jumped to, was like, how the heck did Iran shut down the Strait? Oh, Trump did, blah, 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 blah. They started freaking out.
Next
Iran
video,
didn't do anything.
I got it on there.
You know who did? And this is going to blow your mind.
This is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative with that stupid island that they have, that they gave away and took a 100-year lease.
The UK. I know you're thinking like, the UK, what the hell do they have to do with the Strait of Hormuz? There's a little group called the Mutual Protection and Indemnity Club. That's the IGP&I. It's basically the insurance conglomerate that covers international shipping in that region, in the Middle East region. And no vessel is going to dare to get underway without insurance. Huge amounts of cargo. So it consists of 12 companies in total, all up and down the eastern side of the Atlantic Ocean, mostly 6 of which are based out of the UK. And yes, the same UK that told America that we couldn't use their air bases to stage our assets for the bombing campaign in Iran. Picking up what I'm putting down? This is the same UK.
Yeah, I hear a lot of those trans and the pink-haired, blue-haired ones, they don't believe in showering much because they want to save the water.
UK that is also heavily reliant on China because they got rid of all their own energy. They need to import stuff now. So my question is, was Keir Starmer pressured by China? Wouldn't be the first time. Were those insurance companies also pressured by China? Also wouldn't be the first time. Because I'm thinking, did China come in and say, hey, look, if we can't have the oil, no one can. Let's figure out a way to shut it down. And did you know that all of those companies, those insurance companies, have huge offices in China? This is all the foreign policy stuff that Trump is dealing with right now. More than half of some of those companies, those insurance companies' revenue relies, not needs, but relies on the ability to operate in China. So they sided with China. And Trump came out and kneecapped everybody and said, you know what? Look, effective immediately. I have ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to provide, at a very reasonable price, political risk insurance and guarantees for all financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy, traveling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lines. If necessary, the United States Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon.
Charles, you know that Trump won every state that had voter ID and lost everyone that did not have voter ID. That's how important it is.
As possible. So not only did the UK companies bet on China, They just lost all the revenue from the Middle East region in insurance because Trump's going to have the U.S. back the shipping insurance policies now. By the way, that will be cheaper because the U.S. Navy is going to escort ships, making the risk lower, and the cargo ultimately garner revenue.
Well, they've taken out all the warships, so I don't know what they can do right now so much. Maybe some drones.
For the U.S. of A.
That's not going to last much longer either.
Trump kind of for the win. Also makes me wonder what the hell NATO has been doing for the last 50 years.
Okay, so let me get this straight. When Trump bombs Iran without congressional approval, that is an impeachable offense. But when Biden did it to multiple Middle Eastern countries,
here's
that
the
was
video
fine.
for you, Pat.
When Obama did it to Libya and Syria, totally fine. When Clinton did it to Iraq and Yugoslavia, also fine. We could also mention Reagan, Nixon, Truman, so on. None of those were impeachable offenses. But when Trump does it, it is. Explain this to me. Because this has nothing to do with congressional approval. This has everything to do with narrative, with the left realizing, hey, actually, maybe we're not doing as well as we thought we were doing right now, and we need to get big bad orange man out. The truth is that Trump did the best thing for the Middle East right now. Iran should have been bombed years ago, because for the past 47 years, Iran has been run by a regime that has caused over 60,000 terrorist attacks throughout the world. Reason for like 9/11, they fund all of the terrorism. So yes, this needed to happen. And I'm so sorry if it hurts your feelings, if you feel bad. Yeah, guess what? War freaking sucks. Okay? Nobody wants war, but sometimes you gotta make a mess in order for things to get resolved. And by the way, the only people that are complaining are the entitled white liberals who literally don't know anything about what's actually
a lot of them are white women liberals, not all, but a lot of them
going on, and who, if they truly cared about the people, would have spoken out when over 40,000 Iranians were killed by their own government a few weeks ago. But no, they were silent on that because they're hypocrites and they don't actually care.
Yeah, they don't care. Let me get back over to the other folder. Sorry.
I want you to notice the difference between these two clips.
We are no longer a Christian nation. We do not consider ourselves a Christian nation. The United States has been enriched by Muslim Americans. Since our founding, American Muslims have enriched the United States.
He can go pee up a rope, Obama.
Islam has always been a part of America's story.
But I want to say something here. The only thing that is truly served as an anchor of the United States of America is that we have been, and by the grace of God, we always will be a Christian nation. I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to be an American. I'm saying something simpler and truer. Christianity is America's creed. The shared moral language from the Revolution to the Civil War and beyond.
Later.
Across that history, our country's major debates have always centered on how we could best as a people please God. That creed, think about it. That creed motivated our understanding of natural law and rights, our sense of duty to one's neighbor, the conviction that the strong must protect the weak, and the belief in individual conscience. Even our famously American idea of religious liberty is a Christian concept because we're all creatures of God.
Save Act must be passed. Must be passed. All right, I type a lot sometimes. Yeah, so let me finish this. Okay. Respond to Kurt there. Where was I here? I did that. Okay, here we go.
I mean, just yesterday, George Clooney was on Drew Barrymore's show talking about his wife was helping the Muslim Brotherhood write out their constitution in Egypt. He just says this so casually. It's so crazy. Like, Egyptians killed themselves to get rid of the Muslim Brotherhood. It was so incredibly...
Actually, a lot of the spies I talked to back when I was doing that were from Egypt.
Dangerous. And over here in the West, people are supporting them while over there in the East, people are doing everything that they can to get away from these terrorists. Mamdani winning was a real shock and tragedy, especially after October 7th, especially in New York City, where there's such a high percentage of Jewish people. It is pretty shocking. It is pretty scary. This combination of socialism and Islamism is not new. This is a very old alignment,
Baby
a very
eating.
old unholy alliance. They did it in Iran as well. That's how the Islamic regime came to power in Iran. What did they do? They either murdered, disappeared, imprisoned, forced out all of the useful idiots that helped them get to power because they're not useful.
All the Marxists, once they get in power, they don't want trans stuff like that. They just want power.
Anymore. Right? This is what they do.
We got for time.
And that's what you're seeing with Mamdani as well. People are saying, how is it possible? How is it possible that the left are aligned with Islamists? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, historically, this is what they've always done. And it's always worked for them. This is the thing. It's new for us, but it's not new for them. They're using the exact same playbook that they have been using. By the time they come to us here in the West, they're practiced, right? They're experienced in it.
True that.
What?
I guess they went bye-bye.
از اینجا میاد اینجا.
Don't mess around.
Well, of course, it's expected out of China. Now we know that Iran has three friends: China, the Democratic Party, and the United Nations. But of course, they're going to condemn it because they rely on Iran for their oil supply. They relied on China. They relied on Iran and Venezuela. We took out Venezuela, and now we're going after Iran. China is in trouble. China needs Iran. China needs the fuel. They need the oil. They need to be able to supply their population with the oil. And this affects China militarily. China is weakened militarily because of what we are doing to Iran. And that's why China's coming out and condemning the way they are condemning.
Okay, we're getting up to the clock, so this will be the last one. Here we go.
So this tweet went mega viral on X, aka formerly known as Twitter.
I should be on tomorrow at 5 p.m. again. Okay, I should be. See you then.
Okay, respect the pronouns, bitches. Anyways, Beta here, right? Beta has some words for the American liberal. So let me put them words up on my screen right about now. So Beta says, Iranian here. I want to thank American leftists for educating me these past few days and correcting my understanding of Iran and radical Islam. I almost trusted my own experience, my parents' trauma, and what my family in Iran endures daily instead of your wisdom. What would I have done without your tweets and TikToks? Beta, check this out. Don't feel bad. Because the same thing happened to the Venezuelan people when the United States captured narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro. And you would think that these people are protesting organically. No. You see, instead of being American patriots and being like, let me look up to George Washington as a role model, they instead are cashing checks from another George Soros. That's right. None of these protests are organic. They're all paid agitators. So while America and the entire world, for that matter, watch the people of Venezuela celebrate, they're crying, they're celebrating, they're saying, Trump, Trump, Trump. The American left are cashing their Soros checks by none other than the Tide Foundation and whatever other NGO that George Soros has. See, he dumped over $500 million into Barack Obama to start all this bullshit in the first place. And now that it has snowballed out of control, these people have been thoroughly brainwashed. They're brainwashed into supporting.
I got to do a lot of communications, from people over there.
The Islamic regime, they literally out here chanting death.
That's why it's hard for me to make the other shows.
Death to America. And these libs are going, we got to side with those guys. Being an American, no matter if you are on the left and the right, death to America, that means all of us, every one of us, you goons. So now the left is on to the next thing that Soros tells them to get angry at. They're sitting here watching CNN and BS Now and ABC and
or for whatever he pays them to get angry at.
NBC and CBS, telling them that President Trump is a threat to our democracy. Now we're seeing Iranians and Persians taking to the streets wherever they had to exile themselves to, okay? They're in the streets chanting Trump, 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 just like the Venezuelans did when we captured Nicolas Maduro. And they're like,
I hope that happens in Cuba too. I don't know that we need any troops to do that. I think they're going to kick him out. They'll probably assassinate him.
Oh, Trump is a dictator. Dude, no one was more of a fascist dictator than Nicolas Maduro.
Oh, I forgot to say this last Ayatollah that only lasted about 24 hours. He was assassinated by his own people.
Maduro. The people of Venezuela voted for their president, and Maduro says, I don't care.
So I think we're going to see that again.
Care. I will rule over Venezuela whether you voted for.
At some point, they will give up.
For another guy or not.
I hope they wait a while.
Now, the people, the man who they voted for is now in office. Look at that. And you know what? They don't care about your experience because they got it so damn good in America and they've taken that all for granted. You know what? At this point in time, I would rather trade the American liberal for some grateful Iranians and Persians and Venezuelans. I'm willing to do that. Because the scariest thing of all is these people, they vote in our elections.
Yep. Okay, I'll see everyone tomorrow. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye. Ending. Huh. It's not ending right now. We have to go out and come back in.